does all things up, down, left, and right, Kelsey Hyden, who actually designed that shirt. And we had a few of them, and I'm wearing it out, and I will say not a bird nerd. People come up to me all the time and want to talk about it, and so I'm trying to give them to people who will be better.
I will wear this like a badge of honor.
Thank you.
Right on.
Goes along with rain gauges and moisture meters and shower heads, all the gifts the city of College Station has given us. So we'll add that to the list.
And by the way, just have to say, as the city manager of College Station, Copy Bridge fries and Napa Bistro with a French dip sandwich, their fries. That's
Okay.
where you should get fries.
Woo-wee.
All
Nice.
right, yeah.
There you go.
Good picks.
Hey, that's right. Everybody needs to weigh in on that. Let's see. Finished about 11 o'clock last night. That's running about average, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty good for us.
But you had to look at the budget, and we talked to the mayor about it in some detail earlier this week. First thing that really jumped out at me is you got $92 million in the bank, and that's a lot of money. I don't know if I'm more concerned when a city has a lot of money or they don't have a lot of money. So you have to start deciding what are you going to do, because you've got that money there to be used. You also can take on some more debt.
All right.
But this is your how many year now? How long have you been here?
This is my 7th.
Yeah, 7th year. So things have turned to a pretty good situation right now for College Station.
Yeah, we're really fortunate, and I will say I always hope that during my time we've done some good things. But College Station's been a well-run city for a long time. Great elected officials, great staff, and we through COVID and lots of really big events, I think have done a good job managing it. And I think you also have to put in there obviously the community, because that's ultimately where everything comes from. So it's been really good. I think when you talk about the fund balance, one thing that I want to make sure people understand, it is a big number. A large portion of that is money that either statutorily we're required to maintain, so that if something really bad happens, we can operate the city, or we have revenue issues. We also maintain additional funding, which is one thing that helps us keep our bond rating high. If you ever look at how our bond rating, we're rated as good as anyone as how we run things fiscally. And then we also have some money set aside in there this year because of uncertainty related to federal funds and those things. When you take all that stuff out and you look at the money, it's like, hey, what can council, if they just want to put this towards, hopefully, and what I know they're trying to figure out is big strategic things that are going to improve College Station. You're more in that kind of $40 to $50 million range, which is still very significant. And I will say, as a city manager, it has been building slowly. It wasn't just a big chunk of money. I am happy that we have council members who don't just go spend it. I mean, I've had several councils, and they really consider what they're going to do with that. I'm also always surprised that that money isn't spent there. So I think we have a council now. They've heard, done lots of stuff and heard from the community and want to see investments. Some of them are kind of lined out already, but I'm really excited to see where they want to go.
We haven't talked positionally from College Station's standpoint, settling the lawsuit having to do with water usage, and what is that going to mean? How does that change your arc of development when it comes to water in College Station?
No, I mean, I think and probably if you went back and listened to conversations we've had years ago, I and other people have said that's just paramount, obviously, to everything we do. So in this particular situation, I'm really happy with where we ended up given the situation we had and what we were able to do. And we'll say that there's no way that happens without the support of Texas A&M, the county, and Bryan, and everybody kind of being locked in. And outside of what this deal does for our community, which helps to limit how much water will be exported significantly, which is important, I think we really shined a light on for the state, the situation that we're in. And the model that's been used, which is through no fault of anyone, is basically just that there was endless water to be had, and we know that's not really the situation.
So what's it going to mean dollar and cents wise for you? Because you're going to have to look for new wells. What kind of expense, and when do we look at incurring that?
Well, we have big projects on right now, 3 new wells that we've put in, and that's less related to this specific situation and more related to the historic permits we have and what we're going to be able to produce. We're in a good situation from a College Station standpoint for future water. What the deal did is it really pushed out the timeline for where we'd have to be concerned about acquiring new supply, and then obviously creating the infrastructure to get it here. So that's the big thing, is what originally this proposal was going to really change everything everyone had done to try to figure out where the water would come from and when. So it buys you time, and time gives us the opportunity to work through things in a better way. So that's really what it did. It cuts the curtailment, which is basically when if you get to a certain point where they limit the water that you have now, it cuts that time. It pushes it out into the future, which is what we needed.
Bryan Woods, city manager at College Station. College Station has not handled the housing problem with the students very well at all for decades, long before you got here. And I can remember the first letter I got from them was about 32 years ago about their students moving into our neighborhood.
Right.
So, done the best they can. This seems like a council now that is looking at the really hard decision, the common sense decision that parking has to be one of the key things here. We're discussing having no parking between 2 and 5 in the morning, a mile from campus. That is a big decision to make. Your thoughts on this council doing that, looking at that?
Well, obviously, I'm not a policy maker, but I think you're exactly right that you do have a council, and I want to be fair. Again, been here almost 7 years now. In my first year, we were having discussions about these things, and you can see parking and stuff coming on, and I think everyone has tried to get at it, but I think you do have a council that's trying to, take a very common sense approach. Now, again, they're playing from where they are now, so there are some things that you can't go back and fix. I think these things that affect everyone, they don't have anything to do with if you're a student or if you're having a party at somebody's house or you're whoever lives there. They're just impacts of what happens when you have a lot of people in an area that wasn't originally designed to be there. So I think those things are really good from a management perspective. One of the challenges in some of these other situations is how can you enforce it? Well, these are much more enforceable for us. It is depending on what they decide to do. If there's a car there and it's not supposed to be, that's all we have to worry about. Okay, then when we can manage that. So I think that's really good. But I think you have a council that is very keen on trying to figure it out. At the same time, talking to all of them individually and hearing them up there, they are really trying to consider all parties in this and come to a solution that makes sense. And I will say, talking to people on all sides of the issue, students and folks who own investment properties, and then obviously people in the neighborhoods, I think it's the same way. I've had some conversations in the last week where everybody is really trying to get at a solution. So I hope that this is really an opportunity for everybody to come together and kind of just do what makes sense.
Moreover, the Bryan City Council side, there was some discussion and some language that came out having to do with the Bombers leaving Bryan and moving to College Station, and we kind of got a peek behind the curtain a little bit. Can you tell us, will the contract with the Bombers be a rental agreement, or is it going to be an exclusive agreement?
Yeah, so obviously, ends up it's a council decision, and generally the way we looked at things is obviously we saw a lot that went on with Bryan and the Bombers, and honestly, we do our thing, they do their thing.
Sure.
For our standpoint, we don't want to sign a lease or any kind of agreement until we actually have a physical structure, or at least it's close. So that's the first thing is we always had it in, we were going to design this. So we're getting down the road on that. The nature of what it will be specifically, I think remains to be seen, but the intent is to have where the Bombers can utilize the facility. I think there will probably be some very similar elements to what Bryan has, but our facility, not just the one field, but all of them are intended to be used by folks, College Station Little League, senior leagues, select teams. And that's why we have all of those people on the design committee and as a part of the process is to try to make sure we build fields that, accommodate anything. We've looked at how can we have, a soccer field also be as a part of it, which, lacrosse. That's the name of the game when you're running a city operation. You're trying to make it efficient.
Sure.
Is you don't want it sitting empty.
And you don't want to sit it empty, but this is also not an expansive park. It is what it is. You don't have any more room. My concern is just kind of as a citizen, you try to get into an arms race, if you will, for facilities with people like Tomball or Austin. They have far more facilities than Bryan College Station does. And while you want to build new parks, and that's a good thing, you need them to be generating some revenue. Not going to make a profit, but how can you justify spending that kind of money and then making it appear that we're going to have a lot of teams coming in? I don't see that. Can you explain that to me?
Well, again, I'm not the elected official, but what I
Sure.
would say is generally I don't think that I've heard the council or the intent is to say, hey, this is just going to generate so much money
No.
for tourism. I think what you're looking at is, and what I have always, from the time I interviewed for this job, what I thought College Station has done really well is we have recreation facilities that are far above what you would get if you were only building them for just normal city use, because we say we're going to bring these tournaments in and do these things that have a great economic impact. They really do. But that delta, when we use the money and we bring that in, is going to allow us to have fields and facilities for our kids and our folks to use that we wouldn't be able to have otherwise. So are we going to see baseball and softball tournaments? We see tons of softball tournaments come because we have more fields. Yes, I don't think we are trying to get in, quote unquote, the arms race with these people who have these big, massive facilities. And the same reason, I don't think you see that in Bryan either. We kind of think of those fields as being able to be utilized together, and we do that all the time. So I don't think we're necessarily in competition with them, but we do tons of business with people coming in, and especially for us, the summer when the university's economic drive is lower, that's a key time for us. So I think it's just about incrementally improving things overall.
Okay. And I want to go back. So the idea that this will not be a purpose-built stadium for the Bombers, but do we know if there'll be concession stands? Do we know what kind of seats? Are these kind of things part of it already?
Yeah, and obviously it's not through final design, but the committee, I think when we did the capital projects presentation a few weeks ago, they even showed some of the renderings. And yes, you are having things, looking at concession stands and nicer seating, shaded areas, the stuff you would expect at a place where someone like the Bombers would play, but also something that is really valuable to just everybody playing on it. And again, the advantage of, if you're having a tournament, having this kind of championship field that way back a long time ago when baseball fields were going to be located at a completely different place, they were really pushing on that. And in some ways, I think what we're getting now is through this process, we are probably getting a better product even on the baseball field, because we're looking at how more people would be able to use it versus just saying we're going to build a championship field and then see what happens there. So now I think we've got a lot of people with a lot of different baseball needs on this committee who have said this is a really good setup.
Okay. Finally, I want to go back to the budget. I wanted to get that into our discussion, but finally, you're going to be able to, while cutting the tax rate, add police and fire. That's great, but that's grant money that's come in. Tell us what the arc of that is. When does that have to become a budget item?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. So just so you know, when we budget for positions or any ongoing costs, they are put into the budget. So the grant money, really what it does is just for the first few years, it offsets that if we get it. But what we don't have is a situation where we're hiring people on grants, police officers and firefighters especially, and if that grant doesn't come through, then we're scrambling to do it. We plan everything out in perpetuity. So what we do is say we've got to be able to make the budget work for these positions from now and forever, assuming everything goes the way we predict it. And then we just use the grant money to offset it in the meantime. So the idea being that we're not going to ask the taxpayers to pay for something that we can offset with a grant, but we've got to be able to make it work structurally. And yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, if you look at how many public safety we've put in, when you bring on a new fire station, that's 24 people. That's a big deal. But PD, from the first year I got here, we did a study that showed we just had this gap. And while we've added public safety and police officers every year at a good clip, there was just a gap. So this is a big push to do that. We had originally believed a few years ago, looking at this, that even with everything we've done, it was going to need to be a penny or 2 pennies on the tax rate, and talked, hey, we're just going to have to go to the citizens about this and show we're good financial stewards, but we've got this big influx. But because of some of the things we've done over the last few years with inside the organization, bringing the budgets in, and then also our public safety agreement with A&M, we're covering it not only with no tax rate increase, but we're able to come down. So super proud of our folks and the leadership of the council and working with people to be able to do that. It's probably won't go as noticed, but when you're on our side of it, it's a massive deal.
Well, you have to be a nerd to look at it, but the public service thing with A&M is that's gigantic. Anything else this morning?
No, I mean, I think we hit a lot of it.
All right.
I will say, I just do encourage everybody. I'm sure Colin will hit it. I say every year, budgeting, where you put your money is what you care about. And the budget isn't stagnant, but this is where council is laying out, everything brought up. Had some folks concerned about Bee Creek. There's $750,000 in the budget for that. So would encourage everybody to make use of our resources to kind of understand what's going on and then be able to give your feedback. We try to do it in tons of ways with very long, boring documents and also short videos that explain it.
All right. Thanks for the time again.
Thank you.
What else you got?
Yeah, we have tons of budget information on our website.